This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
One, virtually every social media platform, from TikTok to Facebook. For that matter, virtually every tech platform from Google to Apple. And every media institution outside of, well, Fox News and every government bureaucracy are dominated by one point of view. So why the existential freakout over one conversation between Elon Musk and Donald Trump that would get everyone to basically admit, hey, it's time to embrace censorship. It's time to break out the cops. It's time to arrest people who say things I don't like. 2, Walt Harris, stealing camo, stealing valor, stealing football valor, stealing their everyman status. A conversation with the founder of Realtree. And 3, nuclear energy, the future. AI demands it. AI demands the energy. So why do we cede the future to China and Russia? It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, the Fox News Facebook page, and always on demand wherever you get your audio entertainment, at Apple or on Spotify. Simply hit subscribe. Or if you prefer to watch us talk here on the Will Cain Show, become a member of our community and hang out every day live at 12 o'clock Eastern Time. Just head on over to YouTube, and in the text link underneath this live stream, expand it, see a button, and hit subscribe on YouTube. What's up, boys? What's up, Willisha? What's up to everyone back there in New York City?
What's going on, Will?
Howdy.
Hello.
It's, ask me how many times I've worked out since the New York City Navy SEAL swim.
How many times have you worked out, Will?
That's right. 2 a days. Not even once a day. 0.
Riding high.
And the reason that I bring that up, the reason I tell you about my laziness over the past 3 days, is that it's only to highlight the power of vanity. Vanity is a very powerful motivator. Knowing that you have to be on national television shirtless will get you in the gym. And all of a sudden, I got nothing on the calendar. The only motivation that I have right now is, and you guys know this, the hardest part of working out is getting started. The hardest part of any diet is getting started. It's so much easier to keep the train rolling, once you have the momentum. So there's a little part of me is like, I can feel it. I've downshifted from 5th gear into 4th gear, and that can easily slide into 3rd. And before you know it, this thing's in neutral. And so I got to get it going before I lose all momentum. But I'm going to have to find something to replace vanity.
I mean, you could always just get more of a tan, and that just fixes all those problems.
That's the other problem here. The tan is going to cover up the slide. It's like a false momentum, It's like having a wind at your back. You're like, I haven't downshifted into 3rd gear. Feel that wind? And it's like, nah, man, that tan's fading with it. So I got to get back up there. I'm going to be up there in New York City this evening, so maybe I'll be getting into the gym. In the hotel gym. I'm not going to join Young Establishment James in the Fox gym. I have no desire to see Brett Baer on the treadmill. So I got no excuse. I got to get it together. By the way, speaking of a challenge, last night I guest hosted for Jesse Waters Primetime, and I got into a little bit of what I would describe as a slap fight. I got into a little bit of debate with Democratic strategist Nomiki Konst. This is what went down when we got into a fight about free speech. Not only Joe Biden, but Kamala Harris put that out today. So my question for you is, should they now be deplatformed?
He called the people, the Proud Boys, which is what I think they were referring to as Nazis, as very fine people. So let's make that very clear.
His words were literally this.
On the anniversary of Heather Heyer's death.
I'm not talking about the white supremacists or the Nazis. His words were literally, as I just quoted, I am not talking about the white supremacists or the Nazis. He said those exact words.
He was talking about the Proud Boys, but we see them as the same people. So I would, you trust the FBI. I hope you do.
He didn't even mention
do you trust
Proud
the CIA?
Boys. That's you reading that in.
Do you trust the NYPD in New York? I mean, these are the folks who are there to investigate threats of violence. If you get in the mail, if you get a phone call, a threatening phone call, they investigate phone calls. The FBI looks into terrorist attacks. So why can't you do that on Twitter? The tech companies have an obligation to oversee this.
Well, then, according to that standard, both Kamala Harris's campaign.
That's what a lot of people said to me on social media. Okay, that's good. That'll do. That was a debate about whether or not we should embrace the European standard of censoring free speech. Now, boys in New York, Alicia, there's a couple of takeaways from that moment last night on Fox News. First of all, my social media became incredibly active, markedly active. And I texted Tinfoil last night and I said, here's a couple of things that I want to learn from this moment. I think it's needed. I actually think we need to have more back and forth between left and right. I think that it's all too rarely represented. And I would like to pride myself as someone here, both on this program and just in my career at large, who's very, very open to that debate. And I felt like I saw that in my social media. Now, I will say there is a percentage of the audience that doesn't want to hear from an opposing point of view at all and will criticize me for bringing them on. But I think this is part of who I am and what I believe. The question is, should we invite Namiki here onto the Will Cain Show? And I am not convinced on that answer. This is the second time I've had a debate with Namiki. And I mean it as no huge personal insult, but there's a huge amount of crosstalk, and it feels like debating a press release. I am fire-hosed talking points. And I don't know that it is in the end productive. I don't know. Tinfoil, you grabbed a comment from somebody saying, thanks, I learned absolutely nothing in that debate. So I do wonder if we invite her into this decompressed environment here on the Will Cain Show, if there's a little less heat and a little more light in a conversation with Namiki.
This is something I struggle with because I don't think a lot of people on the left are sincere in their beliefs. I don't know. I don't want to speak for her, but it came across that way for her, where it's like she just kind of repeats the same words. It's kind of like what I used to do when I was younger, and I would listen to right-wing talk radio, and I just repeat the same things I heard. And I think when we had a conversation with Destiny, that was productive. I don't know if it would be as productive with her.
Well, and the problem is when I talk about a fire hose, I will tell you, and the overwhelming majority of the commentary was positive. Good job, Will. You really handled that debate with some patience and the appropriate amount of aggressiveness. But there were some who thought I was not aggressive enough. And there is a quantity of points made that become impossible to rebut. Like the Proud Boys thing. That's just a falsehood. I don't even know what she's talking about. I mean, the debate at large was about whether or not we should adopt a European Union standard of more censorship, which does include cops potentially showing up at your door to arrest you for things that you say online. And I said to her as a rebuttal, well, then should Joe Biden be arrested? Should Kamala Harris be visited by police? Because both yesterday repeated the verifiable lie, fact-check lie, that Donald Trump praised Nazis and white supremacists as very fine people. She pivoted, you could hear Two-A-Days and Young Statesman James, she pivoted to the Proud Boys. But the Proud Boys were never mentioned by Donald Trump. So she just, conjured that up out of thin air. She also, by the way, just fire hose stuff at me she mangled the metaphor, but you can't yell fire in a crowded theater as a standard for free speech, which is not a standard for free speech. It's just not. It was mentioned in the Supreme Court case in like the 1940s. It was overruled in late 1960s, 1969 in Brandenburg, which was a Supreme Court case that set the limits of free speech as direct incitement to violence. But my point is, that's two things she said while fire hosing 100 at me, and I have to pick and choose my battles in 5 minutes on television.
Right, and it's really hard to talk over someone, and she was just saying the same talking point that you've heard and that you knew was nonsense.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like someone, and you see this a lot on TV, where they're not necessarily listening to the conversation and having a back and forth. It's more, I have these 4 or 5 things I want to say, and I'm just going to say them no matter what's said to me. I'd be curious to see if that would be different, if we could see how she came to those conclusions in a full conversation, as opposed to just what those conclusions are.
Count me as curious. That's a good word. I'm curious about a bigger, deeper, more relaxed conversation with No Mickey. And the reason why is I don't want my brain, I don't want my point of view to become flabby in the same way I'm talking to you about my workout. I don't want to not exercise. And the only way to exercise my point of view and my brain is by getting it challenged by those who disagree. I am not in the 20-30% that get mad when I hear something of disagreement. I actually consider it a good workout. And so I want to have that here. Maybe that's something we can accomplish with No Mickey, but we'll continue to seek that out. I will seek that out on the Fox News channel, and I will seek that out here on the Will Cain Show. But for now, let's dive into the subject. Let's get into the new embrace of censorship with story number 1. The new embrace of censorship is an old return to shut up. It's just shocking, I guess, to hear the honesty. The offending moment that has now shaken everybody back into authenticity is that Donald Trump appeared on a 2-hour Twitter space with Elon Musk in a free-flowing conversation, less of an interview in Musk's description and more of a conversation. The former leader of the free world and arguably the planet's smartest man spitballed ideas, workshopped our problems. And for a moment, it's worth just stepping back and marveling at what I just said. A presidential candidate sat down with arguably the world's smartest man, a guy who reinvented the car industry and pivoted towards electrical vehicles, who's pioneered private space travel, who's the richest man on the planet. Donald Trump took on a conversation, unscripted, no pre-vetted questions, and batted the tennis ball back and forth with Elon Musk. While it's been 24 days since Kamala Harris was confirmed the Democratic nominee for president, and 24 days without a press conference, without an interview, without a question about her policies, her past, or her candidacy. Nothing for Kamala Harris. That, simple side by side, is incredible. Now, in response to that 2-hour conversation on Twitter Spaces, the entirety, and if that's hyperbolic or a slight exaggeration, my apologies, but virtually the entirety of the approved journalistic media sphere, almost in unison, yelled, "Shut up." I give you Washington Post, a Washington Post reporter asking a question of White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre.
Elon Musk is slated to interview Donald Trump tonight on X. I don't know if the president is going to tune in. Feel free to say if he is or not. But I think that misinformation on Twitter is not just a campaign issue. It's a America issue. What role does the White House or the president have in sort of stopping that or stopping the spread of that or sort of intervening in that. Some of that was about campaign misinformation, but it's a wider thing, right?
Yeah, no, and you've heard us talk about this many times from here about the responsibilities that social media platforms have when it comes to misinformation, disinformation. Don't have anything to read out from here about specific ways that we're working on it, but
that is the media